Long ago, in a forgotten corner of the Egui lands, there lay a town called Okporo. Once a center of yam festivals and moonlit dances, the town had grown silent under the weight of secrets too heavy to carry. The people smiled in the market, but fear lurked behind their eyes. They whispered of girls who vanished without a trace, of screams swallowed by the night. It was in this town that Adaku lived. She was beautiful, beautiful in the way storms are beautiful, dangerous and breathtaking. Her skin was like melted cocoa, and her voice, when she laughed, carried the softness of river songs. But Adaku had not always walked the path she now walked. She had been a farmer's daughter, with dreams of becoming a healer. But fate had different plans. Her father died when she was 13, killed in a land dispute with a wealthy man. Her mother, weakened by grief, followed months later. Left with her younger brother and no land to her name, Adaku turned to the only trade that paid in Okporo, pleasure. She wore red bangles on her wrists, an unspoken sign in the town that a woman had given up everything to survive. Men came to her hut at night, travelers, soldiers, even some elders of the village. They left coins and lies. And though Adaku hated them, she hated poverty more. Still, she kept a journal, a small cloth-wrapped book hidden beneath a gourd in her hut. In it, she wrote letters to a life she would never live. Dear river, she once wrote, I wish I was water, free, flowing, untouchable. What Adaku didn't know was that her beauty had caught the eye of someone beyond the ordinary. A man whose wealth was as vast as his cruelty. In the heart of Okporo, beyond the red gates and behind high walls, lived Chief Ojimba. To the world, he was a generous leader, sponsoring festivals, giving alms during the new moon, and speaking of progress in the town hall. But at night, Chief Ojimba became something else. He was the high hand of the Brotherhood of Odo, the ancient secret society of 13 men sworn to keep power and wealth through human sacrifice. Their rituals were always performed in the hills of Onwu, beneath the shrine of the forgotten god, Elenk, the one with 100 eyes and a thirst for blood. Every 7 years, a girl of unmatched beauty had to be offered. The last girl, Ebra, had vanished in the last cycle. Her body was never found. Her mother wept herself to death. This year, the time had come again. The chief priest, Ogbuefinwolo, had begun dreaming in red mist and hearing Elenk's voice in the wind. She must wear red bangles, the spirit whispered through the priest's dreams, and her heart must carry sorrow. It was clear. The chosen one was Adaku. The chief called a private meeting with his most trusted men. They gathered in the ancestral hut, their faces covered with the carved marks of the brotherhood, faces of owls, jackals, and horned spirits. She is perfect, Ojimba declared. Poor, alone, and unwanted. No one will ask questions. But she is known, said Elder Egu, the blacksmith. Won't the town suspect? They won't dare. She is a prostitute. Who mourns a woman like that? Ojimba smirked. The plan was simple. One of the Brotherhood members, posing as a wealthy traveler, would visit Adaku and offer her a journey to the city, promising riches and escape. She would be taken through the forest road, and by nightfall, her blood would flow upon the shrine stone. That evening, Adaku was seated by the fire outside her hut, roasting plantain. Her brother, Obina, now 16, had gone to the river to fetch water. The stars blinked above, and for once, the village was quiet. Then a voice interrupted her peace. You are Adaku, the river-eyed girl. She turned to see a tall man with smooth skin, dressed in fine wrappers and heavy gold rings. Yes, she said, wary. I've heard of your talents, he smiled, but I did not come for that. I come with an offer. My master owns a hotel in the city. He seeks a hostess. You will be paid in foreign currency. You will wear fine clothes. You will never walk this dust again. Adaku's heart fluttered, but she narrowed her eyes. And what do you gain from this? I am a servant. I am but a messenger, he replied smoothly. Adaku was no fool. She had seen many lies. But something in her heart, perhaps the tiredness of her soul, wanted to believe. Can I bring my brother? No, the man said too quickly. It is a woman's job. That night, she lay on her mat staring at the ceiling. The offer sounded like a tale from her journal. Could she live? Was there really a life waiting beyond these huts? By dawn, her mind was made up. She left a note for Obinna under his sleeping mat. Forgive me. I go to find a better life for both of us. I will return. Wait for me. Then she packed her small cloth bag and followed the man through the forest road. But what Adaku didn't know was that Obinna had woken early and seen her leave. He had followed quietly, hiding in the trees, watching the stranger's path. As they neared the Onwu hills, Obinna felt his stomach turn. This path was not to the city, it led to the forbidden shrine. The boy ran back to the village, barefoot and breathless, crying out for help. But the villagers stared at him with fear and silence. Don't speak of that place, one woman hissed. The gods will punish you, another warned. Even the elders ignored him. Only one person listened, Mama Urema, the old widow who once lived near the shrine before it was cursed. She took Obinna into her hut, gave him water, and listened. I must go after her, he cried. I can't let them kill her. The old woman looked into the flames of her heart and whispered, then you must not go as yourself. Meanwhile, Adaku had arrived at the foot of the shrine. She realized something was wrong when she saw the circle of robed men and the stone altar soaked in old blood. You lied, she screamed, turning to run. But they grabbed her, bound her hands, and began the ritual. Ogwefa Nwolo raised a curved knife, chanting in the tongue of the old gods. Elenk. 100-eyed one. Accept this sorrow. But just as the blade was to descend, a wild wind blew through the forest. The fire died. The masks cracked. And from the trees came a howl, not of animals, but of spirits. The ground trembled. The trees wept sap like blood. And in that moment, Adaku's spirit broke free, her scream echoing into the air like thunder. They thought she died that night. They were wrong. For in the days that followed, things began to change in Okporo. The chief's daughter fell ill, her eyes rolled back, her mouth muttering Adaku's name. Elder Egu's forge burst into flames with no fire inside. And every night, the sound of anklets could be heard walking through the village, red bangles clinking in the dark. Adaku was no longer among the living. But she was not done. She had become something else. Something the brotherhood could not silence. The forest of Onwu had grown darker since the night Adaku was sacrificed. The leaves no longer danced when the wind passed. Birds avoided its branches. Even the insects were silent, as if the earth itself mourned. Something had awakened beneath the soil. And in the shrine of Elenk, where blood once fed the stones, the blood now burned. Back in the village, Chief Ojimba tried to hide the shadows in his heart with lavish ceremonies. He donated tubers of yam to widows. He paid for the repair of the community well. But nothing could silence the rumors. A goat belonging to Elder Nedi gave birth to a deformed kid with red bangles on its front legs. Women fetching water from the stream heard a girl crying beneath the surface. And on the fourth day, the chief's compound caught fire, yet nothing burned. The flames danced but consumed nothing. That was the first sign that Adaku had returned. In the corners of the village where secrets festered like rot, fear spread among the brotherhood of Odo. The men who once wore their carved masks with pride now avoided one another. Elder Egu stopped attending meetings. Ogwefa Nwolo, the high priest, was visited nightly by a faceless woman in his dreams. She came to him, soaked in blood, her wrists rattling with red bangles, whispering, I still breathe, even in death. He no longer performed rituals. He now drank Ogagoro and spoke to walls. The brotherhood called an emergency gathering in the underground chamber beneath Ojimba's compound. She is haunting us, said one of the younger men, voice shaking. We should have burned the body. She has no body, another hissed. Her spirit lingers because her blood was unjustly spilled. She was a harlot, Ojimba backed. She had no honor. No family. But even as he spoke, his throat tightened. That night, as he lay in bed with his fifth wife, he heard someone weeping at the foot of his bed. When he sat up, there was no one there, but the scent of burnt perfume filled the air. In the outskirts of Okporo, in the small compound where Mama Urema lived, Obinna had not stopped searching. The old woman had taken him in fully now, treating him like her own. But she knew the boy's heart was still in the forest. "She's gone, my son," she said one evening, pounding herbs into powder. "Even if her body returns, her soul may never be the same." "No," Obinna whispered. "I heard her voice. I saw the fire that night. She's still there. And she's angry." Mama Urema paused. "There is one way," she said at last, staring into the fire. "We must go to the shrine of Oninyeki." "The forgotten goddess?" Obinna asked. "Yes. Elenk was not always the only god of this land. Before blood, there was light. Oninyeki protected women, especially those who died unjustly. But her shrine was buried. People stopped praying. They feared the darker powers." Obinna stood. "Then take me there." That night, under the cloak of darkness, Mama Urema and Obinna ventured deep into the opposite side of the Onwu forest, where no drums were ever beaten, and no names were ever called. After hours of walking through thick vines and whispering leaves, they reached a mound of stone overgrown with moss. Mama Urema knelt. "Oninyeki, mother of the silenced, awaken. One of yours was taken. Her blood stains the altar of your enemy. Rise." Obinna added, "Adaku was not perfect, but she was good. She suffered. She protected me. Help her find peace." A wind blew. The vines unraveled. And the mound split open, revealing a stairway beneath the earth, glowing with soft blue light. They descended. Back in the village, strange things continued. A woman washing clothes by the river screamed when her soap turned into a severed tongue. A child drew in the sand and accidentally sketched Adaku's exact face, though he had never met her. The town's night watchman began hearing her anklets before every incident, before a barn collapsed without warning, before a midwife miscarried 5 births in one night. And then came the message. Written in charcoal on the door of the town hall. 13 hands. 1 altar. Justice cannot be buried. The elders summoned Ojimba in a panic. "You told us the ritual was clean." "It was," he lied. But he knew. He remembered how Adaku's blood had refused to sink into the stone. How it boiled and hissed. How the fire had gone cold. How the masks cracked. He knew they had offended something older, something deeper. He decided to consult the oracle. The oracle of Ikenta was a blind woman with silver dreadlocks and skin that glowed like moonstone. Her hut stood alone at the edge of the forest, guarded by silence. When Ojimba arrived, she did not welcome him. "You carry death on your back," she said without turning. "What do you want?" "The girl, Adaku, she haunts us. I need her gone." "You mean the one your knife met at the shrine? The one whose heart you never asked about? The one who still weeps when the moon is full?" Ojimba trembled. "I offer anything," he said. "Gold. Cows. Power." The oracle turned her milky eyes to him. "Bring me the boy." "What boy?" "Her brother. The blood of her blood. Only he can call her soul home. Or doom you all." Meanwhile, beneath the shrine of Oninyeki, Obinna knelt in sacred waters. The goddess had spoken. Adaku was trapped, not just in spirit, but in memory. The moment of her death had become a loop. She was living it again and again, unable to escape. To reach her, Obinna had to become a vessel, temporarily giving his voice to the spirit world. Mama Urema warned him, "Once you open yourself, spirits both good and evil will come. Guard your thoughts." Obinna accepted. For his sister, he would face the darkness. That night, possessed by Oninyeki's blessing, Obinna walked into the village square and collapsed. His body writhed. His eyes turned white. And when he rose, he no longer spoke in his own voice. It was Adaku. "Your daughters will know my pain," she roared. "The shrine will sink. The blood of cowards shall flow like wine. You fed me to the god of teeth, but now I carry the teeth of 1,000 women. People screamed. Mothers clutched their babies. Elders ran. Only Mama Urema stood firm. Adaku, she said calmly, your brother is still here. He has not forgotten you. Obina's possessed body turned slowly. Obina. Yes, Mama Urema nodded. He came to bring you peace. Let him carry your pain. The spirit wept. The red bangles clinked. And then Obina collapsed, his body falling into deep sleep. Far away, in the Onwu shrine, a miracle occurred. The altar stone split in two. From its crack rose a flower, a red lily, blooming from blood. It smelled of sorrow and jasmine. The shrine trembled. Eleng's power was breaking. The brotherhood had only days left. Chief Ojimba, desperate and frightened, finally gave the order, kill the boy. Before he completes the bond. He sent 3 men to capture Obina as he rested in Mama Urema's hut. But they never returned. In the morning, their bodies were found at the village square, mouths stuffed with sand, hands tied in the same red bangles Adaku once wore. The message was clear. Justice had begun. In the days after the failed assassination of Obina, Okporo changed in ways even the oldest elders could not explain. A darkness fell, not of clouds or weather, but of spirit. Chickens refused to crow at dawn. Cows refused to give milk. Pregnant women began having strange dreams of red rivers and a girl with anklets whispering, you must choose silence or justice. The sky stayed dim, even at noon. The villagers stopped attending markets. No drums played. No songs rose. The air was filled with silence and dread. The shrine of Eleng, the once sacred altar of the brotherhood, now oozed black sap from its stones, and the spirits that once obeyed Ogwefa Nwolo had turned their backs. Adaku was not just haunting them. She was changing the balance of power. And time was running out. Chief Ojimba, bloated with fear and guilt, locked himself inside his chambers. His wives no longer visited. His guards no longer stayed. He had started talking to himself, begging forgiveness, offering gold coins to shadows. On the 7th day, he summoned the brotherhood one final time. Only 8 of the original 13 arrived. Where are the others? Ojimba asked, his voice hoarse. Elder Egu drowned in his bath last night, one murmured. His top turned red before his eyes. Emeka the baker died while kneading dough, his heart exploded. Chuko walked into the forest naked. He has not returned. Ojimba clutched his head. She is not a god. She is a girl. No, whispered the old priest Ogwefa Nwolo, eyes wide. She was a girl. Now, she is Rat. She is Ononyeki's answer to Eleng's tyranny. We must confess, said one of the elders. We must beg the goddess to forgive us. But Ojimba roared, no. I am the chief. I will not bow to a harlot's ghost. That night, he dreamt of Adaku standing over his bed, dressed in white, her face shadowed, holding a calabash filled with fireflies. When he reached to stop her, she poured the fire into his eyes. He awoke screaming, blind. Meanwhile, Obina had fully recovered. But something about him had changed. His eyes now shimmered in moonlight. He could hear voices that others could not. And sometimes, when he spoke, it felt like Adaku was still inside him. Mama Urema watched him with silent awe. The bond is complete, she said. You carry her grief now. You are her voice in this world. Obina only nodded. He no longer wept. His pain had sharpened into purpose. He returned to the shrine of Oninyeki with Mama Urema and knelt once more. What must I do to free her completely? He asked. The answer came not in words, but visions. He saw the faces of the remaining brotherhood members, saw their sins, saw the knife that killed Adaku, its blade now rusted, buried beneath the shrine. He saw Eleng, the god of 100 eyes, weeping black tears and fading like smoke. And he saw a storm, rising not from the sky, but from within the village. A cleansing. A reckoning. Obina opened his eyes. It is time. The next day, Obina walked boldly into the village square, carrying the red bangles that had once belonged to Adaku. His voice echoed, firm and strange. Let the people gather. Villagers crept from their huts, uncertain but curious. No one had spoken with such boldness since the festival days. When they saw Obina, they gasped. His eyes were no longer boyish. He stood like someone who had seen gods. Mama Urema stood behind him, arms folded. Then, Obina pointed at the elders sitting under the Udola tree. You who feast while children starve. You who bury justice under cowrie shells. You who watched her suffer, then looked away. She was your sister, your daughter, your neighbor. She gave you her body to eat, and you repaid her with blood. Silence filled the square. The chief priest, Ogwefine Wallo, stood with trembling hands. It's true, he confessed. We killed her. For wealth. For power. She was the chosen one, but not by Elenk, by Oninyeki. Mamas turned to gasps. Villagers began crying. Women fell to their knees. The truth, like a wound opened, could no longer be hidden. Obina raised the red bangles high. I call for the sacred trial of the guilty. That night, for the first time in 40 years, the sacred drum of judgment, Njin, was beaten in the square. Boom. 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 One beat for each of the remaining guilty. They came, trembling, 7 men now, for one had taken his own life before the sun set. The trial was not of law, but of truth. Each man was forced to drink from the calabash of salt water. If they lied, their tongues would swell. If they spoke truth, the water would pass gently. One by one, they confessed. Each told the role they played in Adaku's death. How they picked her. How they tied her. How they danced as she wept. The village cried with each tale. And when all had spoken, Mama Urema stood. You will not be killed, she said. But your names will never be honored again. You will rebuild the shrine of Oninyeki with your bare hands. You will sleep under the stars and drink only from the stream until the moon turns 13 times. And when you die, Obina added, your graves shall carry no stones. That was the punishment. No honor. No remembrance. Only service and shame. Chief Ojimba, now blind, had fled before the trial began. He had taken his gold, 2 of his sons, and run into the hills beyond Onwu. But Oninyeki does not forget. And Adaku had not forgiven. On the 13th night after his flight, lightning struck the hills. A wildfire swept through. Nobody was ever found. But the next morning, a single pair of red bangles was discovered at the foot of the tallest tree, still warm. Obina, weary but unbroken, stood at the edge of the shrine where Adaku had died. She is free now, Mama Urema said softly. But Obina shook his head. No. She watches. And indeed, from that day on, whenever injustice stirred in Okporo, whenever a girl cried without comfort, anklets were heard in the wind. And the scent of Adaku's perfume, sorrow and jasmine, lingered in the air. Epilogue. Many years later, a temple stood where Adaku's blood had once been spilled. But it was not a shrine of Elenk. It was a sanctuary of Oninyeki, the mother of women forgotten, shamed, and silenced. Young girls came there to pray. Widows came to sing. Orphans came to dance. And every year, on the night the moon refused to shine, a single girl would light a lamp and place a red bangle on the altar. To remember. To honor. To never forget. The perfume of sorrow had become a wind that healed. And the village of Okporo, once dark with secrets, learned to walk in the light. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe, turn on your notifications button for more interesting stories.